Hello and welcome. It's Monday and it's Motivational Monday by Jim and Lucy. Today we touch very sensitive topic for many and very important topic. There is a lot has been done and a lot needs to be done, and each and every one of us can change our lives and help others change there. And topic today is recover to rule your life. And our special guest is Mary Beth O'Connor. Hello, Mary Beth.
Hi, nice to be here.
Thank you for joining us. So tell us more, from junkie to judge. Is it even doable?
Yeah, I did it. And part of what I try to use that arc for is to really sort of reassure people that no matter how bad their substance use disorder is or their family members, that there is a path forward. And so for me, it really started young. I mean, I grew up in a very abusive household, physically abusive, sexually abusive. I took my first drug at 12, which was alcohol. And I was shooting meth by 17, and I didn't get sober until I was 32. So it was a really long and miserable, path. But I did get sober. I just had 30 years of continuous sobriety in January. So that was a big marker for me. But when I got sober, I had to do a lot of work. I had to deal with my trauma. Turned out I had PTSD and I didn't even know it. I had, severe anxiety, but I also had to build myself up professionally. And so it was partly just about where am I? What's my first step? What's my next step? I certainly didn't think I'd ever become a judge, but at 6.5 years sober, I went to Berkeley Law. And at 20 years sober, I was appointed a federal administrative law judge. So it was an interesting journey, but it also was a journey of step by step by step.
Oh my goodness. You gave me a lot right there. I mean, what was that, the stimuli, the moment where you said, this is not good enough for me. I'm going to change this.
I mean, for me, it was multiple factors sort of hitting me. It had been a long time. My body was starting to have physical problems. I was really, exhausted and miserable, and I felt trapped. And my boyfriend, my partner was ready to throw me out, and I couldn't hold a job. And so it was just sort of everything in together that made me say, well, maybe I ought to go to rehab. And I do emphasize that it's for most people, it's not like you go to rehab saying, I'm 100% committed to sobriety for the rest of my life, right? It's really usually a process. And so I went in just sort of debilitated and just hoping to find, a better way, a better way.
It is so impressive. And first of all, thank you very much for sharing your personal story. And I know many of us listening thinking, no, that's probably just some sort of movie. This can't be true.
Yes.
So what's the secret?
Well,
What's the tool, the formula?
and I will say it's not a movie, but it is a book. So from
Not yet.
my memoir, yes, from junkie to judge: One Woman's Triumph Over Trauma and Addiction, available through Amazon in Canada. Um, but I will say for me, there were a couple things that were sort of key. One of them was I absolutely had to deal with my trauma in order to live my best life. Right, I couldn't just get sober. I had to deal with the PTSD. I had to deal with the anxiety. But the other thing was that for me, I wasn't really a good fit for 12 steps, which is Alcoholics Anonymous and, all the Anonymouses. And so I built an individual plan. I attended and read all the 12-step materials, but I also did other programs like Life Rings Secular Recovery, which is also in Canada. I did Women for Sobriety and what today would be Smart Recovery. And I always was actively looking for ideas and strategies and techniques, but I was also always asking, is this going to work for me? Is this a technique that I think will help me? And so it was sort of a filtering process. And by taking control of my recovery that way, it actually built up my sense of competence and sort of my confidence that I could handle other decisions in life and other areas. And so that was really a helpful approach that I didn't know anyone else who did it in 94, but more people actually do that today. And it can be a really effective, sort of more self empowered recovery approach.
What was your, um, what was the market? Did you have a role model or mentor? Someone said, you know what? I think I can do that.
Well, I will say that when I went in, I really didn't know if I could get sober. It wasn't that I wanted to keep using, it was that it was just sort of beyond my imagination, but it is helpful. One of the advantages of peer support groups, like the 12 steps or Life Ring or She Recovers, is that you do see people that are sort of ahead of you in the process, and they are examples that can give you hope. When you see someone like you whose drug history is as, chaotic and lengthy as yours, and now you look at them and they're like 6 months or a year or 2 years sober, and they have a job and they look healthy, and they're, rebuilding their relationships and getting their debt under control. When you see that, it starts to, it helps you absorb that actually, if I do the hard work, I can succeed too. So you're right. It is important to sort of have examples of success to help you do the hard work of recovery, because you have some hope that you can actually attain it.
Well, that's impressive. Uh, One more question, Mary Beth. Has your journey, people often say that going through trauma or going through recovery, substance abuse recovery, and achieving something afterwards change the way they look at other people and at life. How did it change you?
I mean, for me, a lot of the issues. So for most of us, or a high percentage of us that have a substance use disorder, which is the modern term for addiction, right? We also have mental health challenges. It's like 55 to 75%. And so for most of us, if we want to, for example, not just do something else instead of the substances, like, okay, I'm sober now, but I'm picking up gambling, or I'm overeating, or I'm into sex, over sex, too much sex or whatever. Um, it really does, it really is important to address the pain that's underneath, so that you're not going to just pursue some other self-harmful behavior even if you're sober. And so that's one of their sort of really important ideas for people to understand, is that an addiction is not a fun, it's not a fun experience. It's usually a pain management tool, and so you have to deal with the pain if you're going to find your way out.
Well, I have one more question. I'm
Mhm.
sorry. Excuse me.
Ask as many as you want.
Well, excuse me. I'm impressed that you just. I mean, a you decided to get sober, and then secondly, you you went to Berkeley and you went to law school. Rather, I mean, that's how did you say? You know, everybody else is doing it. Must be smarter than me. Must be better than me. How did me, little old me? I'm not good enough, but you did it. How did you do that? How did you take the step?
Well, I will say, when I got sober, again, I was 32. Okay. I had my Berkeley degree and actually good grades, but I had worked my way down the corporate ladder. Like, I couldn't hold a job, So I had an embarrassing resume. And so when I got sober, my professional goal was, let's not get fired again. Like, that was my professional goal at that point. Okay.
Bravo.
So it was really my first job when I got out of rehab was a part-time, low-level, temporary administrative job, because it's really all I was ready for. I had never, like, for example, gone to work on time every day and stayed like all the hours and done a good job and gone back the next day and the next. I was 32. I had never done it. I needed like the practice of it. You know what I mean? To get that habit. And then my next job was a permanent full-time mid-level administrative job. And then my next job was a supervisory job at a larger company where I got a promotion. And then I emphasize, at 6.5 years sober, I went to Berkeley Law. So it was really about, as I approached everything, what's the right next step? And then how do I prepare myself for that right next step? So it was incremental. It's not that I thought when I got sober, I'm going to go to law school, or I thought I'll be a judge one day. It was really about, what am I ready for? Let's get that. And then what's my next step? And what skills do I need? What abilities do I need to land that next job? And I just approached it like that. What's the right next step? And, when you get sober, especially at 32, I thought I was old. Like, my God, I've wasted my life. I'm really old. But it turns out, no, actually, there's a lot of time left. And so many people do make such positive progress professionally. They often go back to school and get degrees or other trainings. Certainly, people learn how to hold a job and how to move forward and get promoted. So the end point of judge may be unusual, but making that significant forward progress in career and profession is a very common experience for people in recovery.
I You are a magnificent woman, again, a magnificent example, and I just hats off to you, ma'am. You must be a superb speaker.
Yeah, and that's what I do now. I'm retired, although my husband says I need to look that up in the dictionary because I don't know what it means. But what I do now is, I have my book out and I write opinion pieces. Like I've had pieces in the Wall Street Journal and the LA Times and Recovery Today. And those are on my website, which is junkietoJudge.com. But I also do a lot of speaking. So I speak at conferences. I'll be like a speaker for a recovery organization fundraiser. And I actually train lawyers and judges in substance use and treatment options and how that impacts attorneys. So I do a lot of speaking now. And this is sort of my time where I can talk about everything openly because I don't have to worry about the professional ramifications. So I'm able to be fully 100% open and disclose anything and answer any question anyone has. And so it's really, I view it as my time to be of service. It's my time to really give back in a new way.
What advice would you give to someone out there right now who feels like I'm at rock bottom? This is the best it's ever going to be for me. What advice would you give for them?
I mean, I'll say two things to that. One is that we no longer emphasize wait for some horrible rock bottom to get sober. So today we really emphasize that substance use disorder is categorized as a mental health condition, just like anxiety or depression. And it's on a spectrum, right? Mild, moderate, or severe. Just like you could have mild anxiety, moderate anxiety, or severe anxiety. And today we really encourage people to disrupt their substance use disorder at the mild or moderate level. Let's not wait for the horrible severe level, okay? Like it's better if you don't. On the other hand, on that spectrum, I would have been categorized at the very severe level, and people do succeed that way. So when you're coming and you're at that point where you feel that life can't get better, you're really trapped. For me, I always encourage people to just don't wait for certainty that you can get sober. Don't wait for the perfect conditions. Don't wait till you're motivated 100%. Just start making forward steps. Start going to meetings. Start looking at treatment options. Start seeking out sober people and asking them how they did it and would they be willing to help you and mentor you. Get an evaluation. You can get an evaluation about where you are in the substance use disorder spectrum and talk about your treatment options, whether it's inpatient or outpatient or just doing a day program or working with a doctor or a therapist who has addiction expertise. So I would just focus on what's my right first step. Don't worry about not being 100% sure. What's the first step that I can take? Let me just do that. Just do that.
Yes. Yes.
It is an important advice. And thank you very much for sharing your story, for the inspiration, and for these tools. Dear listeners, this was Mary Beth O'Connor. You can order her book. The link is available in the description to the episode, and the book's name is From Junkie to Judge. You can find it on Amazon. That easy.
I can listen to you all day. You're impressive.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Mary Beth. This is Motivational Monday by Jim and Lucy.
Follow our podcast
And check out our website, jimandlucywoods.com.